Tolly and his Chinese friend Ping, just back from a camping holiday, were emptying out their haversacks, the pebbles they could not bear to leave behind. Their camp had been close to the sea, and they had collected palm-fitting stones as they walked on the tide-washed beaches, every day discarding some and adding others. Now the stones lay in a heap on the lawn at Green Knowe, while Tolly poured water over them to bring out the color and sparkle. The brightest were of green or blood-red marble, and for contrast, black basalt figured with white, or semi-transparent eggs of amber or moonstone, which felt to the fingers like velvet stroked along the pile. Ping turned the pebbles over lovingly and handed his favorites to Mrs. Oldknow. "Stones ought to be magic," he said. "They fit your hand too well. It feels as though they meant something important." "They are the natural weapons," the old lady answered, teasing. "Wild man would be very good at throwing them at things. Natural tools, too, the first nutcrackers and all that. Perhaps it's just your primitive instincts coming out." "It doesn't make me feel at all like wild man. It makes me feel wise, as if I knew things. Only I don't know what it is I know." "They were used in magic, too," she said, relenting. "If we had to choose one stone for doing magic with, which would we choose?" asked Tolly. He picked out a pale green oval, for all the world like a snatch of surf turned into stone, foam flecks and all. "How would this be for walking on water?" Ping was engrossed with a flat oval of slate, subtly ringed with white veins, which he was following with his finger. The surface had a rough drag like a kitten's tongue. The rings went round and round the stone, pivoted at a slight angle, growing smaller and smaller till they ended in nothing. This would be for disappearing. You get smaller and smaller till, poof, you are gone. It would be more useful than walking on water. At least it would be useful oftener. And look, grandmother, I brought this back specially for you, because it was a pity you weren't there. It has a hole in it. You could wear it round your neck." This was a polished, flat pear shape in the blackest possible black. The hole was near the top, smooth and big enough for Ping's little finger. The lower part was figured with a white star and some intricate mathematical-looking curves, made, of course, not by man, but by the sky and the sea and the earth all working together. "What a wonderful thing! Where did you find it, Ping?" "In Fiedland Bay. During the storm, when the tide was up, the waves were boiling with stones and throwing them about like spray, and afterwards the shore was quite a different shape. Instead of being all even, it was a great bank of rocks and stones at one side and a great hollow at the other." "Fiedland, I know it well. That is where the last of the Druids were driven into the sea by the Romans. The chief Druid used to wear a stone of power round his neck. I can imagine the storm churning up the bottom of the bay, rolling great rocks up and down deep under the water, shifting the base of cliffs, splitting open cracks, and throwing up far on the shore things that had lain hidden for 2,000 years. This could be the Druid's stone. I wonder who would know. I wonder if one of them has ever been found. I imagine there would be only one. It would not be buried with him. It would be handed on to his successor." "What would it be threaded on?" asked Tolly, standing with his arm round his great-grandmother's neck. "Would it be gold?" "More probably copper wire. That was very precious. I don't think it would be very comfortable." "How would this do?" said Ping, fishing in his pocket. "I found a lot of long, silvery horsehair in a barbed wire fence." "The horse's tail must have been horribly knotted to catch so badly. We used to learn straw and grass weaving in the hostel, so I wove a bit of horsehair ribbon. It's very strong." It was about 1/4 of an inch wide and looked like coarse silver thread. Ping passed it through the stone. "We hereby make you head of all Druids and Druidesses," he said, putting the two ends round Mrs. Oldknow's neck. "Tie it, Tolly." The two boys sat back on their heels to look at the old lady. "It suits you," said Tolly. "Your wrinkles are like the wrinkles on sand when the waves have laughed churning over. They do sometimes. You must wear it secretly." He slipped it inside the collar of her blouse and buttoned up her cardigan. "It doesn't show at all. Do you feel any different? You look different now I know it is there." "You too," she said lovingly. "As soon as either of you comes, I know I am in for something. Come in now, you've had a long journey." Ping and Tolly raced into the house, glad to be there again. It was Tolly's own, in that it was his great-grandmother's, while it was Ping's only by adoption, but they loved it equally, and Mrs. Oldknow made no difference between them. Perhaps she allowed herself to be more demonstrative to Tolly because he was her own and because Ping was Chinese and reserved, but Ping understood that perfectly. He never could quite bring himself to the familiarity of Granny, but called her grandmother in 2 words. When Tolly spoke of her to Ping, he called her Grand. "I'm glad this house is stone," said Tolly. "It smells of stone. When you come back to any house that you know, it has such a special smell. Do you think that when they built this, they put in some magic somewhere to make it last? Because it has lasted so much longer than houses do." "I'm sure they did, or something magic. It was a custom going right back to the first houses ever made. Generally, it was something under the threshold, or on the roof, or perhaps under the hearth, the 3 most important places." "Have you looked?" Tolly was patting and stroking the walls as if they were alive. "No," the old lady said. "I haven't disturbed anything. Whatever is there is working very well." Ping smiled and said nothing. "You are sleeping together in the attic," she went on, "but we'll have supper before you go up." "I must go and look at it again," said Tolly. "It is too long since I saw it. Come on, Ping." They went larking off up the steep wooden stairs across the music room, or Knight's Hall as Tolly called it, and up the still steeper and narrower stairs to their attic. They hung out of the windows to see the garden, the river, the islands, and the birds. They bounced on the beds, listened to the old clock, rattled the familiar drawer handles, and Ping picked up meditatively a large round green flagon that his friend Oscar had once found in the rushes. In the camp, he and Tolly had shared a tent, and alone in it at night, with the stars showing through the opening, they had told each other the almost unbelievable things that had happened to them separately at Green Knowe. At last they were there together. To both of them it was now home, and also the most wonderful place on earth. It was like nowhere else, because while most houses are built to shut out everything but the inmates, to close doors and draw curtains equally against the cold wind from the edge of space and the curiosity of the neighbors, to make a cozy den where everything is yours and under your own control, Green Knowe was full of mysteries. Certainly it was welcoming and comfortable and rejoicing and gay, but one had the feeling that behind the exciting colors and shapes of its ancient self there might be surprises from the unknown universe, that the house was on good terms with that too, and had no intention of shutting out the ununderstandable. Of course, it was largely time. Surely, the difference between now and not now is the most teasing of all mysteries, and if you let in a 900-year dose of time, you let in almost everything. Tolly looked at Ping, whose adventures here had been so different from his own. "I wonder what it will be this time," he said. "Come on, let's go down and start."